evening, everyone. Let me just sort out my own phone, because then it's easier to track everyone. Welcome to my Facebook Live for Pentart this evening. And for those of you watching on catch up, it's lovely to know that that you're there. And if you comment replay or leave or tag me, then I'll know that you've been. And if you've got any questions, I will happily try to answer them. So, good evening, Connie. Welcome. So I'm going to do this before I end up with stuff down my top. Why is that being a nuisance? Let me just stop that noise before it bings all through the live. There we are. Hello, Juliana. Welcome, my darling. Good evening. Hi, Sarah. Welcome. Now then, I know last week I asked about what we were going to make today, and the suggestion was mixed media, but also Alice. Well, I have to submit the details for my lives about Thursday of the week before, so the lovely Sylvia Pentart, can then do all the things that she needs to do with it. And it hadn't arrived, so we've got but I have got it now got it planned, so I know exactly what I'm doing next week. But everything has a silver lining, so we're doing mixed media. And we're using all sorts of different things today. And don't be scared by the amount of black. You just did not need to see me painting my white resin pieces all with black gesso. Now, this primer paste is Pentart's black gesso. This one's magnetic. Doesn't matter. It will do the same job. I'm not going to use the magnetic properties of it, but I just didn't think you needed me to see me painting all of that lot all together in one go. There are some bits that might have done better, but hey ho, I'll live with that, because there's enough painting to do as it is without me adding more into it. Mini money mo, what have I done? Oh, that's where it is. So this rice I've got an A4 board here. We're going on the outside of it, and I'm going to just pop my rice paper on, but I'm going to break it up a wee bit because that's the way the cookie crumbles, really. And it's quite a good method of dealing with boards that aren't quite A4. There we are. And then let's just take a bit out of here and a bit out of there. There we are. And we might have a bit of overlap, but that's okay. Let's just have a bit more off there. Oops. Maybe not quite so much, but there we are. That's not going to matter. And I've got some scraps then for something else, which is okay. You see, we've still not got a bit out. There we are. So that's going to work, I think. We'll have that bit up there. Well, why not just stick? Yeah, we'll stick. Make sure I've got it up the right way. We'll just stick that piece into there. That will work. So a little bit of tearing up of it. Now that rice paper is a really nice background rice paper, and it comes from Venice City of Arts, and I have deliberately chosen not to prime my canvas tonight because I'm sort of going for a vintagey feel. Now ladies, whilst I think it is all ladies watching, hi Isabella, whilst I get this on, I have two options for the next steps. Okay, I think we can go cracking plaster or cracking paste. Either which way, just let me know which you'd prefer me to use and demonstrate. The looks will be slightly different, but that's okay. There we are. So let's just pop this. So I am currently using decoupage glue and varnish in matte. It comes in 50, 100, 250 and probably bigger. I use so much, I have the 250s, but for, you know, by the size that works for you, because there really isn't a right or a wrong. You want the cracking paste. Okie dokie, Drafty Jacks, then that's cracking paste is what we will do. I might need to grab another product with that, but that's okay. There we are. So let's just stick that down there, because this is going to save me from, I was vacillating about the two options, so that's why I decided I'd give you the choices, because then I can, there we go, I've got enough underneath there. We're just going to give this a nice layer over the top. Make sure that that is properly sealed, because why not? Let's take those two off there for the moment and get this bottom corner down. There we are. It's a while since I've demonstrated the cracking paste, I have to say. I like the plaster, it gives bigger cracks, but I also like the cracking paste as well. So that will also work. There we are. So let's just pop that onto there. Have I covered it all? No, of course I haven't covered it all. There we are. So there we are. We'll just pop this on, and again, just making sure I have a nice layer. Lift that off because I'm not quite at the edge over there, so it's clearly gone on the wonk. There we are. We'll sort that out. That's better. And then we can make sure we've got it properly sealed into place. I'll give it a little bit of a blast dry. There we are. Is there an upside and is there a wrong side to this? There we are. Another bit. There we are. And then we'll fill in the gaps. And we're just going to create an interesting background because we can. There we are. Let's at least get that vaguely up the right way. Well, by the time we've got all the other layers, it's really not going to show too much if it's exactly the same area. But sometimes it's quite handy to be able to link bits of rice paper and make an eighth and just stretch the piece that you've got and make it go further. Okay, good evening, Faith. Welcome. There we are. I think I've seen Sarah Marchant come in. Yes, I have, my darling. Thank you so much. There we are. Let's just do that. And I know that looks like you because we've only got 4 pieces on there, but our brains will typically say we need to go 5, but that's okay. So let's just give that a wee bit of a blast. Before we do the next layer. And I'm going to put the bottom down because I can. Let's take that coffee pasta well out of the way. Don't need that one over there either. Have I got enough space on my table? Of course not. Why would I have enough space on my desk? I mean, really? Anyone would think that I have an infinite amount of room. Let's just give this a wee bit of a little bit of the dry, and then I'm going to put the packing paste primer in between, but I do want to spread it over a little bit. Good evening, Marino. Welcome. There we are. So yeah, we're going to mix it up. Mixed media style. So I'm mixing my Samperia rice paper and moulds, and I've mixed those up across several sections because why not? It helps you get the most out of your products with my Pentacolor mediums. Hopefully, but reasonably dry, at least over the edges, because we need to bridge these gaps to make it work overall. It will do. Here we are. That will do. That will do. Let's just grab another brush. We don't need a little one. Let's just go with that one. That one will do. So the cracking paste requires a primer. There is a cracking paste primer that you can buy alongside this, but there's also the universal cracking primer, and that's the one I've got in my hand. And why not open a new one? Well, that's just typical, isn't it? I'm sure I've got another one already open, but that's okay. So let's just pop this on, because the primer helps to crackle, and it also will helps the stability of the crackle, so that bits don't ping off when you don't want them to. And I'm deliberately taking this onto the rice paper. Now the primer has a bit of a shine to it when it's dry, so just be aware of that. And if you're not sure that you're going to cover everything with your with the second stage, because you can't quite see where you've gone over with it, then just cover the whole piece. It dries completely non-tacky, so it's not going to be an issue, but then the whole surface will have the same texture. On failing, if that idea doesn't float your boat or work for you, then do it and then cover the whole thing with a matte varnish if that's better for you. Always options to sort things out depending on what products you have and what you want to do. So let's just pop that onto there. Let's just lid that. There we are, that can go there. So how many of you saw my sneaky peek reel the other day labelled playtime? Because there's a big hint in there as to what the plan is for today. And everyone's gone silent. So that sometimes just means that things are not feeding. But I think we are still live, because I can see you're all quite happy on my phone. So I trust that everyone is well, and that we're enjoying some cooler weather, even if it might be a bit rainy. We can't have everything in this world, can we? At least we haven't got horrendous floods, unlike the poor Chinese, where it looks pretty dreadful. We had our fair share earlier on in the UK, and also America had its fair share of falling weather earlier on this year as well. Good evening, Isabel. So, just to recap, my darling, I have taken a wooden board and deliberately not primed it, because I want a slightly vintagey feel to my piece. I've used my decoupage glue and varnish mat to stick down some torn pieces of rice paper, just to form part of a background. And then I give people the option of using cracking paste or cracking plaster. And the lovely Crafty Jack suggested cracking paste, so that's what we're going to use. It's good sometimes to go back to some of our older mediums, because if you've got them, they sometimes, I think, older products can sit on the side and end up a bit neglected, and that's not always the right thing, is it? Now let me see if I can find a suitable site. I don't want that one. I do not want that one. That one's black. So this hiding, let me just grab. We might need another one of those. So oh dear, oh dear. Excuse me, just ladies, while I just empty out powder I've shoved in my keyboard, because that's really cool, isn't it, to try and wreck your keyboard with that. Right, let's just grab that, pop that off to the side. Then we're going to do a little bit of mixy-matchy messing about. Right, where is my black paint? So this is a wall decor paint, but which will work reasonably well. So we might not need to add the black in, and we're going to just do a bit of self-colouring. Oh dear, look at that. Look at that. Okay. So let's just pop a little bit of that on there. We will need that out shortly anyway. So let's just pop that there. Goody. And let's just take this white cracking plaster, which has definitely seen better days. There we are. And shovel some of that onto there. Okay. There we are. And let's just do a little bit of mix and matching. And get rid of the lumps while we're at it. Because why not? Why not? And I'm rather hoping there's another big lump there. That pass, I've had that for ages, so it's my bad. And this is what happens, doesn't it, when you don't use your products? So there we are. We now have a custom coloured piece of that. Let's just get that in. And I'm also going to have some plain white. And I'll have 25 tons more than I need here, but that's okay. Hi, Ari. Good evening, Jan. Welcome. There we are. So let's just take a big squad of that. We might be putting that in the bin later on. Let's just... There we are. It's a bit lumpy because I ended up having to add... I can feel a hard lump in there. There we are. There we are. Let's take that lumpy bit out. There's another hard lumpy bit. So I don't want the lumps. Right, we'll work around them. So we're going to have a mix of colours by doing this. There we are. And we can always add some more if we want to. So custom mix. Thank you, Madonna. Let's just pop that over there. Pop that over there. Pop that here. And let's just pick up a bit of everything. Don't want the lumpy bits. So flat to the board. Some of this is going to get covered, and that's just fine. Don't want thick amounts. There we are. Little bit of variable texture. I definitely do want to cover that area though. I don't want to see the transition. There we are. We will get it covered. Get rid of that, then I can move my hands properly. There we are. There we are. And then let's see, I said I'd end up with way too much, didn't I? But hey ho, that's just fine. Get rid of that hard piece. Because it's all about the layers. So we're So that will behave and crackle nicely and give me a mixture of different layers. And have I got way too much? Of course I have, but that's okay. But perhaps mix up less for yourself so you don't throw your products away. I've got masses, so I'm just going to top that onto the floor. That can have a bit of a dry, and then we're going to do some bits here. So I've got 3 different techniques I'm going to go through. Meanie, what do we need? Yellow copper. Of course, can I see the colour I actually want? Of course I can't. Aha! Right. Excellent. So that can go on there. And that's going on there. So these are rose molds. I think they come from Casa Granada, which is a very old Pentart collection. And for those of you that joined me, I did quite a lot of pre-prepping for all this black. So these were cast in white resin. I could have used the rapid resin and put black pigment tint in it, but I didn't have any black pigment base. My bad, but it's been out of stock for a wee bit. So I have put primer paste on them. Ignore the fact that mine says it's magnetic. It's a primer paste. It's equivalent to black gesso. Don't ask me why I have it in a magnetic, because I don't think I've ever used it as a magnetic weight. Maybe we should. And this, so I'm now going to use the Decor Glue Tacky, and I will instantly regret this because it is what it says on the tin, tacky, and it will dry tacky, and everything I have will at touch with it will be tacky. But I do have a plan. So we're going to do 2 different patina effects, but not using the Rust of Patina paint effect set or the Rust and Patina sets which come with the metals and the little bottles of reagent. We're going to do them with paint effects, but not using the kits, because I think it's important that we get the most out of our products. And some of you may have the new All Decor products and think, well, actually, can I use them for other things? And the answer, of course, is always, yeah, they're paints. So you don't have to use them on all. You can use them for other things. So that's what the plan is. But all of these techniques that I'm going to show could be done with the paint effect kits. To a very similar end result. So that is this is just the Decor Glue Tacky, and it goes on white and will dry clear. So we pop that on now, and then those can go off to the floor where I don't have a heater because of the time of the year. But I can see that they're already drying, and I'm just going to give my hands a really, really good clean, because I know that if I don't, as that dries, it will be really tacky. Now you can put the tacky glue through a stencil, but don't let it dry on the stencil because it's nigh on impossible to shift once it's dry, and your stencil will be forever tacky. Now that might work if you're wanting to use it as a stencil adhesive, but it does stick really well. So it might not be quite what you want. So those are going to go there. Those are going to go there. So let us do these. So faux patina. Patina is a natural process that occurs when copper is exposed to air. Yeah, I think that's about right. That's the best description of that. Let me just pick that up. That'll be the next one that we need. And so patina will only occur on a copper base naturally. It does not naturally coexist with rust, or because rust forms on iron based products. So mixing the two on one piece doesn't work to my literal mind. So I have picked the antique copper wall assert, and we're just going to add a layer of that onto all of these leaves because we can. I shall swap my hands from being non-sticky to covered in paint, but that's okay. And because it's a metallic, I like to put it on a black background. I think you just get better coverage on that. And the azures are slightly opaque or slightly translucent, so it definitely works better like that. So some of these leaves come from the mould with the roses, which, as I say, I think comes from Casa Granada, and the others come from Hidden Creek. So if you look in your stash, I think you can often find moulds that will work for you. And that's the joy of a mould, isn't it? You can use them for lots of different projects. So they're tools. So although they might be an expensive outlay to start with, they definitely work. Hopefully, I will give you there'll be some helpful tips here for you, Ari. But I mean, there isn't, I don't think, a right and the wrong. What I did do is hang on a minute, the paints in the wall decor range have a titled, dark patina, light patina green, light patina, and rust, light rust, dark rust. So the paints almost give the game away and make it easier, I think, for you to think. So the title for my Please Believe in Tomorrow comes from this resin piece, which I think comes from Woodland Creek, but it could come from any one of the several other of them. But you can choose any title you want for your make, or leave it minus it. I just like to title my pieces because it just makes it easier from a point of view of the live to have them with a title. There we are. So let's just pop that on there. So they've all been given a coat of that. And let's just give them a little bit of a blast dry. Because it's definitely a project that is going to be all about layering. I've got a lid out. I'm assuming, yeah, that came off there. So let's just protect that, otherwise we'll struggle to get it open. So the Dekoratőr tacky can be used with lots of different things. So let's do that. Put that into there. Because these fingers are definitely sticky. That's reasonably dry. Okay. So this is the water patina kit in dark grey, but you could find an acrylic paint mat that is very similar in colour to this. I think with that, if you just look around, look at your stash. Let's just grab a brush. So the key to, I don't want that one with this. Okay. The key to this is that it's an irregular finish. So you don't want to cover everything in what you're doing. Okay, you just need to sort of splodge it about a bit. I know, technical term, isn't it? Each piece will be different, but you're building up your colours, and I'm going to lift off colour, so then these, that way it'll dry quite quickly. There we are. It's an patina is an aged effect from. There we are. Get some of it on the edges. There we are. So knock it back. And if it partially emerges with that coppery paint, that's absolutely fine. Okay, I don't have a problem with that. I don't want it to be an even colour. I want it to be as if it has been aged. Okay, we will need, no, we won't need that one out again. So this one is dark patina, Ari. Okay, dark patina. Let me pop that into there. Let's just give these a wee little blast dry. There is a light patina, an ordinary patina blue. I'll just pick it up. Okay, so that is the dark patina, and that is the light patina. And I didn't feel that was on the right colour tone for proper patina, which is definitely more bluey green. So hence I've used the dark patina, but you could add some of that other one, but it wouldn't have been. I just think it's not quite the right colour, or not the right shade. So let's just pop that down there. We'll pop that back down there, and then let us tackle the next bit. So this I have now swapped to a Lazur, and this is the patina green Lazur. So it's a very soft bluey green, and I think that is a good colour match to natural patina. There we are. Let's just wipe most of that off there. Again, it's not going to matter too much. So we're just going to give this all a good covering. Okay, and then I've got a wet cloth, and I'm just then going to wipe it back. Ooh, she says, just the different layers to be different. Okay, so I'm just going to wipe it back, because to me that's got more of the colour of a natural patinaed surface. I've still got my metal, I've still got the darker blue, the dark patina, but this green patina is the game changer for me for this piece. It just does work, I think. There we are. So we just need to take our time, not be panicking, not be hurrying too much. Each bit will be different, because that's what happens in nature. But they just look so much more like a natural process, as if it had been a sculpture that had been left out in the air to dry, to age naturally over time. And we are mixing it up, but I'm just thinking, just thought that something a little bit different. Here we are. So if we look at so that piece is not patinaed, and that piece is patinaed, and that extra layer really does make such a difference. There we are. And it's a very, very pretty effect. You think you could do this with a big stencil for your texture. Paint it all. Why don't I on another live? I might just do that on another live. Paint it all with this technique. You might have to do it in stages. There we are. It does help if you've got a clean-ish piece of cloth for wiping back. But I think it's it's quite a nice, simple way. So I've used the Lacer almost as a paint for the metal. And then I've used paint for the blue. And then I'm using the surf for this. And I clearly, with these resin pieces, didn't quite put enough hardener in. But that's fine because they've clearly come out. It's a very imprecise science, is that. Some magician can work it out. But there we are. Let's just wipe that back so we can see all of the layers in different areas. There we are. Okay. And now look at my fingers. They're also grotty. Hi Laurie, welcome my darling. We have a lady watching, I think, from Greece. I'm really sorry, my darling, if you're still here, because my Facebook page is telling me that I've got someone watching. So the pale colour, Ari, is the Patina Green Wool-Lacer Antique. There we are, but we will come back to that. Right, so that can go over there. I can tell you that my paint is cracking nicely. Now, rust, and more rust. Right, we want brocante powder. We don't need you. We will need you again. Okay. Let's just take that off there. Okay. So I thought, for the rust, in the rust paint effect kit, it's a beautiful colour as well. In the rust paint effect kit, there is a earthy brown, which is really dark brown, and then a red clay, a yellow clay, and I can't remember the other. Anyway, several different colours, but all based on brown. So, and some powder. There it is. So I have chosen for my rust effect using the wall paints, truffle brown, which is a wall paint, rust brown, that's a wall paint, and ochre, which is a wall paint. And we are going to be adding some texture. So let's just scoop out some bits of that. So that is the truffle brown. Now, if I wanted it darker, then I could mix in some of the black wall paint with that, but that will work for me. So this is rust brown. I think from the sometimes on the tops it's difficult, isn't it? So let's just pop some rust brown onto there. Lid that. There we are. And then let's just not contaminate our paint. And this is the wall paint ochre. There is a sunflower yellow, which is a much brighter yellow, and I think that is too bright for this, but this will work. Okay, so let's just pop a little bit of that onto there. There we are. That can go over there. And then I want some texture, because rust is a sign that the surface of the iron is beginning to degrade and evaporate. So I'm using the brocante powder, which is gritty. I'll just pop some of that out on there for doing this with. So that can go there. And now I want a brush that I am not going to wet, because you definitely don't want to do this with your best brushes, because you get all the bits into them. So this is the Art Stories mould, which has a pair of these in opposite directions and some extra swirly bits that I've used on other makes. So I am literally just going to pick up some of that dark brown and some of that powder, and I'm going to splodge. There is no other term other than splodge. Okay, so I'm going to get the texture, and you don't need to go all over. Don't want that white bit showing, but I am going to have this as the major colour. Even though it looks like I've got more of the rusty brown out, I'm aware that there is a lump in that. There we are. So we're just going to have a goodly splodge all over. So the predominant colour needs to be. So I don't mind some of the black showing through. In fact, I'm quite happy for that. It's just going to add some variation. Very little of it is going to show long term, but I will get quite a lot by building this up of texture from that brocante powder that I'm just mixing in. If you wanted more, you could pop some magnesia powder on. And I'm not going to let this dry at this point, okay? I'm now going to swap to my rust. And I'm just going to fill in some of these areas. And merge these colours. And I can go back and forth and build my layers as often as I want. So if I cover this too much and I decide that I don't want it quite so, I want some more darker colour, I can come back in. Because these are all wet layers, then it won't matter from there. Okay, so I know so far I've got two colours. I've got my black, I've got my dark brown, and then I've got that rusty brown. Yeah, and I can see that I've got texture appearing. And now I just want a little bit. You can see why I said don't use a good brush. So I'm just going to pop some splodges of that, and then I'm going to work it in. It's a natural process. And I've come back. And you then just carry on building your layers until while you're happy. There isn't a right. There absolutely isn't a wrong either into this. I seem to have ignored that little bit completely. And that bit. But by doing this, I'm mixing and matching. Okay. So I hope you would think that now sort of does look a bit like rust. I've got some areas that I think are a bit too yellow. So let's just add back into there. Put some of that other brown back into some of this areas. There we are. I can see another area there that looks too brown. So let's just add in some of that. Okay. So that, I think, then gives us something that looks reasonably rusty. And it's quick. Doesn't take forever. So that can sit up there to dry. She says balancing that. This is why I said don't use a good brush, okay? Because by that pouncing movement, particularly with the Brocamp powder in there, means that it will, the chances of me ever restoring that brush to being a usable paintbrush for anything other than that pouncing technique are few and far between. So let's just get rid of that. Sorry about the scraping. There we are. It is very effective, Sarah, Stephanie, and it's not difficult. I like things that are effective and not difficult. Right, so that's two patina, a rust effect and a patina effect. Oh, there we are. So let's come back to these. So I can, yeah, if I lift these up, most of that glue has dried, but some of it hasn't. So just bear with while we get this dry. So I'm another plan for these. Because of what I want to do next, I definitely need all of the white bits to have gone. Otherwise, it could be a pickle in the next bit. Because I don't want that to wrinkle. Oh, no, Stephanie, absolutely. I will get the worst of it out. But I'm never going to reshape it. So absolutely, I will reuse that brush. There's no question about it. You know, a lot of, so I will show you just how sticky that glue is. Yeah. So that is the tacky glue. Remove that. I will risk it. But do let it dry properly. I thought I had another one of them out, but hey ho. So I have some metal flakes here. You could use any of the metal flakes from Pentacolor. It really won't matter. I'm just going to, this is M10, which is a gold copper blue mix. Copper, you could just use plain copper if you wanted to. There we are. Ooh, I don't think I want that brush bit in there. So this will just give me some variations. Let me just pop that into there. Most of this will go back in the pot. I've obviously had a brush in there that was molting, but that's fine. There we are. But it's just going to be less sticky. And I have to say my all-time favourite is M2, but it's just a bit dark for this. So let us just take a firm brush. I want one that's dry. That one is not dry. So let's just take a hard brush and knock it into all of these places. There we are. I like the variegated leaves, and now having knocked it in, I can now brush off the excess. And this is just a hog's hair brush, but it's a stiff brush. You know, any stiff brush will do. You can get specific gilding flake scratchy things, but for molded details, a fine brush that will push the flakes in and remove the excess is what you want. So there we are. So let's just do this. And I think I might have, no, I didn't miss that bit. Excellent. I might have missed that bit. If you miss any areas with the paint for this technique, it won't matter, but otherwise go back in, and you just need to polish off with your brush the extra pieces. And yes, I will end up with a sandy, collection of tiny bits, but that's okay. They can go back in the pot and they can be used for other things. There's no need to be sorry, Blanche. There's always, we all have lives, and life can sometimes be just a wee bit busy. There we are. That's two. There's another one. So a stencil brush with hard hairs will do this. This is a Stamperia brush, KR86, for those of you that are interested. But a stencil brush will work just fine. I have to say that I have a friend who calls this type of, the brush I've got in my hand at the moment, the KR86, a magic brush, because you'll see me using it an awful lot for dry brushing, for for doing things like this. Because if you're dry brushing, a firmer brush definitely works to your advantage. Right, I should be chasing bits of gold flake around for a long time. Okay, let's just pick that up. That's the one I want, and that's what I want. Maybe I didn't want that bit. There we are. Let's get rid of that. And we might then have to do just a little bit of cleaning up. Because otherwise we are definitely going to have flakes every which way. It's not an occasion to go sneezing. Definitely not an occasion to go sneezing. So let's just take that patina green, and then let's just give this a goodly bath in patina green. If I wanted it darker, then I could put a little bit of the Umbra that's underneath, and a multi-layer. That will also work. Okay. Well, let's just take this, and then let's just wipe it back. Excuse the mucky paw prints, but it's just going to give us a very pretty effect. I don't tend to do grungy. I tend to like pretty, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I don't like rust and patina. And you don't always have to use rust and patina for steampunk projects, because this is definitely not a steampunky piece. There's not a cog in sight. I'm thinking that there's a wall outside on which someone put up a nice, sculptural piece many moons ago with different materials, and it has just aged with the passage of time. I know, it does pay to have an active imagination, honestly, it does. There we are. So you can see the difference that step makes. She says throwing that upside down, but why not? I have a feeling that this patina green will become my most used one of these products. Possibly that, possibly the antique white. I do use the antique white quite a lot. And I don't think you'll have ever seen me using any of these colours particularly. It just works, Ari. It just works. My mojo went walkabouts. It really has gone walkabouts. We've got a lot of health issues going on in the house. Thank you. And I've got a very, very poorly husband. So I think there's quite a lot of stress and worry in the house, and it's not good. But creating is my sanity place. So sometimes just getting something out and playing is a good idea. The concept of using these for the patinas came to me at stupid o'clock in the look at the state of my hands. Just look at the state of my hands. When I was worrying. Oh yeah. So there we are. So this is a product that you need to remove when it's wet. And this is a very textured mould, so it works quite nicely from there. And then let's just pop this onto here. So I'm hoping that the words that will then become visible. If not, we'll be doing some dry brushing on top of it. There we are. Yeah. Ooh. Let's just wipe that off, leave it around. We might end up having to add a bit of gold over that, but I can subtly see the leaf in there. There we are. Right. That needs to come over there. Ooh, that's nearly done. And that needs a little bit of a blast. I can feel that it's still wet. But ladies, we're not so far off. So there's masses and masses of texture on this piece. And I'm going to dry brush it, I know, with a colour that wouldn't naturally occur with rust. But I'm just wanting to highlight the colour and the texture that I've created, and with all of that breadcrumb powder that I've popped into there. And I'm going to add a little bit more of that yellow tone on the top in the process. But this is definitely a question. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's what I did, Sarah. I went, what have I got? That's called rust. That colour is rust. I've seen some beautiful rust effects on walls and furniture, but the creatives who've done them from Hungary, hadn't shared how they've done them, which is fine. I think they've taught them in workshops actually out in Hungary, but I've not been. So, yeah. Right. I don't want that. I don't want that. I do want that. So, I've just picked up. So we can go either which way, actually. We could add some dry brushing with yellow copper or with gold. Which one do you want? Yellow copper, the slightly oranger one, or the yellow gold? There we are. Whilst we wait for someone to respond. So this is my faux wall where I've coloured my cracking case. So where I didn't put the primer won't crack very well. Copper. Thank you, Isabel. It's going gold. Maybe we can do a bit of both. Maybe we'll do a bit of both. So this is now cracked beautifully. And I could age it if I want. I wasn't planning on aging it. So that might be a trick to wait and see. But there we are. Right, a bit of both. Orange. That was the copper. So let's open the copper. Have I ever opened the copper? That'll be a no. Is that good? Yeah, of course it's good. There we are. You'd probably go gold. I tell you what, I'll do this one in the copper. And just bear with while I step in everything that I didn't need. And walk paste, coloured paste all around the floor. There we are. Excuse me, just while I stop making, rescue the pair of shoes that I've got, and don't then walk paste all the way around the house, because that won't be a good trick. Right, let's take that, pop that there, and then not walk out of here. So in my little sneaky peek reel, I used gold. Okay, so I've got one with the gold. That's better. So why don't I just use the copper for this, and then we'll see which one we like when it's done. So this is just another hogshead brush, and I'm just pushing that paint well and truly into there. And then I've got my brush flat. So flat to my piece, and then we can just lightly brush over. We've got masses of texture on here now. And then we can pick the one that we prefer. They are left and right sided, so it won't matter which way we go. But then we can see the different effects, can't we? Because I don't think either of them are right or either of them are wrong. There we are. So you can see that that's brought out masses of that texture. Okay. So that is the yellow copper version. If I lift these up, and this is the gold version. Okay. So there are left and right sided pieces that work quite nicely together. So which one should we have for our project? Bearing in mind we're going to be doing some layering, and we've got some leaves. Let me just pick up the other patina effect, and then you can tell me that that's not the final arrangement. So which side would you prefer me to use on the actual pic? You like them both, you see. Difficult. So shall I use the one with the gold or the one with the yellow copper to go on my base? If I pop that onto there, that color combination, or that was option 1, or that one, option 2. Connie likes the copper. There we are. Then we have an answer. That is cool. we might end up having to do a little bit of spray, I think, to mute some of these colours in that background down a bit, because it's just a bit too clean. So this is Umbra Wall-Lasur. Just going to deliberately dirty this up in a bit of water. It's just a bit too clean. There we are. Let's get rid of that. There we are, that's better. Sarah likes the copper as well. Okay, okay. That's what we can do then. Just add a little bit of the blast dry. I can always add more spray. But I can't get the stuff to dry if I don't have. Yeah. It just softens that colour just a little bit. Now we've got way too much gubbins on this desk, so let's just move some of this lot out of the way. Then I can pop the project properly onto. Oh dear, sorry ladies if that's just made you go very seasick. There we are. Let me just move that rouse. There we are. Pop that up into there. Excellent. Okay, so we've got the copper piece, so let's just pop that onto there. So I've got my beloved heavy body gel, because why wouldn't I have my heavy body gel to hand? Yeah. There we are. Let's just get some of that onto there. I can see I need a bit under there, a bit there. There we are, that will do for now. And we'll have a little bit of a clean up of that. Okay, okay. Right. Then I just need to remember what I did. That's going there. That's going to go into there. Yeah, sort of an S. Right. Let's just tuck some of these pieces in so that we know where we're going, because that's always good, isn't it? That's better. That's going to sit in there. That can sit there. I think we might pop you into there. Yeah, I think that's where we had you. That's where we had you. And I think, yeah, maybe not. Maybe like so. There we are. Right, let us get to sticking, because that's always a good starting point, isn't it? Yeah. Tuck you into there. I'm going to need a biggish blob on you, but that's okay. You can go there. You can go there. There we are. Okay. Do need a little bit of a clean up, ladies, I have to say. Right, oops, we will come back to that label in that. I'm just going to wet that brush and just take some of this out of here. Where I can see globs of that white, I'm just going to take it out. Can always come back in. There we are. And then we've got that piece that I was going to pop it up on there, but actually I think I'm going to pop it there because I prefer it there. So my eyes go, as an S. So it naturally follows. Now I don't want to add any liquid onto here again, but I will ultimately want to add some more of my spritz. But if I add it now, then my heavy body gel will separate and that's not going to work so well. So ladies, there is Believe in Tomorrow, the title of our make, with a self-coloured crackled background, the rice paper, Art Stories mould for the big swirl, then Casa Granada roses or peonies, I think they were roses, and Hidden Grove for some of those leaves. So there we are. So I think we have an effective rust technique, 2 options depending on the top colour you use, and 2 different patina versions, one made with flakes which have copper in them and one made purely with paints. So hopefully that's been a live that you've enjoyed, and maybe hopefully have learned something from. I've enjoyed making it, I've enjoyed playing, and so for now that is it. I have a pocket watch ready for next week, and with that pleasant thought I will leave it with you. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you very much. I'm glad you like. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Connie. Thank you, Blanche. Thank you, Kellis. So let me just now fiddle with my computer. Because I've got so much stuff I can't actually move my mouse around. There we are. So take care, ladies. Be kind to each other, and I will see you live next Tuesday. Bye.